morning. Happy 4th of July, Independence Day, holiday weekend, all that wonderful stuff that keeps us in our free country. This is Bradley McAllister, founder of Spidercraft. This is Monday Methods. Been on a break. It's great to be back. I'm looking for a lot of fun today. I'm going to play with this piece from the last time we were out here when I cast in my resin bloom experiment. Okay, so that's what we're up to today. It's going to be fun. I'm going to have fun. I got the AC on. I got the fan rolling. Let me show you real quick in overhead what this little guy looks like. This is what's inside of this piece. So that's pretty cool. And I'm looking forward to it. Now, when I turned the piece, or when I cast it, we used a gold pearl in this, and I got a little more gold than I had expected, but you know, it goes that way sometimes. And so we're going to play with it, and here's what it looks like on the end. You can see a little bit of the resin bloom sticking out the end. So what my plan today for this is I'm going to go ahead and turn it, get it smooth, and leave it in the cylinder, and I'm going to cut a couple of medallions off of it. So what I'll be using, I'll use the carbide tools to get this round. And then I'm going to go ahead and slice some real thin wafers, if you will, like a pendant. And I'm going to use the Carter & Son 16th inch parting tool because it's real rigid. It's a great tool. This is my favorite parting tool. That's what I'm going to use to make my slices through here. And I'm going to do a couple of those. We're going to see how it comes out. Never tried it before. It's something new. You know me, I like to do something new whenever I can. And so I'll do that. And then I think, because I'm going to have a little bit of this left over, I'll do one of my little water droplet fountains. So that's my plan for today. I hope everybody's enjoying the holiday weekend. I just got back in from Colorado, so it was 4 days on the road. Been out there for 3 weeks. Got to go back out again in a few weeks. So I'll have a couple of Monday Methods here, then I got to take a break again and go back out west. It's a busy summer for me. I'm doing a lot of traveling this summer, but I want to get my Monday Methods in when I can. So that's a good thing. And I think I'm ready to go. I've already got this guy mounted. I put it in the chuck. As you can see, I've got just the right spacing here, about 1/8 of an inch or so in my jaws. If you're not familiar with how I do this, these are cups from, like, say, Dunkin' Donuts. It's actually the Solo brand makes the cups for all the restaurants. And it has a natural dovetail already in it. You can see the dovetail profile there. So it works great in a set of dovetail jaws. This happens to be the Easywood Tools Easy Chuck with the 2 3/8 inch jaws. And it centers up in there nicely, locks in. And so you have a ready-made tenon, and you can see it centers nicely. So it's ready to turn. It's ready to go. I'm going to crank that guy down. I'm going to let it sit for just a minute, and I'll come back and crank on it again. Now we'll run the tailstock up here. See, we're in the end camera. You'll see. We go to we're in overhead. I'll go to the end camera. You'll see. I'll bring tailstock up just for safety, in case something was to catch. Now we're technically between centers, so it can't get away from me. I've got my speed set to 0. Going to go ahead and turn this on. Oop. I saw that move. That was interesting. Let's back this off for a second and make sure that that's happy now. I had been playing with the headstock earlier. We want to make sure that this finds the right center and doesn't load things up. I wonder if that moved in the chuck just a titch. Titch. Is a titch the right word? I'm going to reset this. I'm going to jump back over to the overhead for you, because it may have shifted. I doubt it, but it may have. So I'm going to loosen this back up and reset it just to be sure. Find a spot where it's nice and happy. We always want our blanks to be happy in our jaws. All That's looking a little better. And snug her up once again. I see here, if I take you to the end camera, look at this right here. And it might be a little hard to see. There's a little nub right there. I think that's what happened. There's a little, when this cast set up, there's a little nub right there. So what I think we're going to do is come around here real quick. And we're going to flatten that out. Hey, good morning, Corey. Good morning, Jeff. I'm just kind of getting fired up here. Getting things worked out. Hope you guys are enjoying the holiday. Let's get that little nub out of the way there. Sometimes just make a nice little self-center, recenter that. Got a little divot so it can center itself back up. I might just keep that number 1 hollower out handy here. Probably using it. Hey, my mom's here. Good morning, Mom. It's a family affair. You're working, it's 90 degrees, humid with no shade. I feel for you. As you know, I was in Colorado where it was 65 degrees, no humidity. And now I came home to Georgia, and actually for here it's pretty mild, guys. Back here in South Georgia now, it was in the 80s yesterday. I mean, but compared to Colorado at 10,000 feet, it's really sticky, but it's actually fairly pleasant for here. Good morning, George. Thanks for dropping in. So Corey, you're stabilizing wood in the shop today. Hope that goes well. Let me know. Let's send pictures, post pictures in the Wood and Resin Turning community page of what you're working on, Corey. We'd love to see it. Okay, so I think I'm safe here now. Find your speed. This will turn 1,000 pretty easy. That's 1,000 RPMs there. Show you in the overhead. And I'm just going to true this up, clean up this face out here. Right here. Clean up the front face. It's a mess. And then, like I say, I'm going to try and slice off a very thin medallion, if you will, for lack of better terms. And Bridget and I were talking last night. She says, "What are you going to do for Monday Methods?" I was like, "I don't know. I got to come up with something. I just got home." It's just, how about like making a dream catcher light kind of pendant that was real small, or a jewelry pendant. And I said, "Hey, that's a great idea." Hey, Mark Thompson. Mark Thompson, answer me a question real quick. Did you have to redo your Facebook account? I got a friend request from you, and I know we were friends, and sometimes that means somebody got hacked. So just let me know if I need to, if it's a legit request for, if you changed your profile and you need to be refriended. Be happy to do it. Just hadn't had a chance to try and get with you in Messenger or anything. I just want to make sure that you hadn't been hacked and all that good stuff. All right. So where am I at? Where am I at? Yeah, you got hacked. Okay. So I won't respond to that one because I got a couple of them, and that sucks when Facebook stuff happens. You get hacked and people try and steal your profile. It's just, I guess it's one of the risks of social media. And you just have to be as careful as you can because we end up with a lot of stuff out there. So anyway, thanks for letting me know that. And if you need to redo your account, just send me. You can even send me an email and say, "Hey, Bradley, pop into this one or accept this one and not the others, whatnot." So because the picture was different than what I think I see with you there. So anyway, all right, let's start turning. I'm going to use a number 1 hollower just to kind of get this guy round and in shape. And again, let me pop you to the overhead as you guys are kind of coming in here now. You can see little bits and pieces of the resin bloom. Here's the resin bloom again. Here's one of them. They seem pretty solid in there. And so that's the first time, obviously, I've turned it. You see, I had a couple of bubbles. It was kind of hot that day, and I put it in the pressure pot kind of late. So I have got a couple of bubbles there. But we'll just get this guy trued up, and that's where we're going to go from there. So I'll put on my mask. As always, ask away, ask questions. I need to change the lens in this. I got lacquer on my face shield lens. I just need to change that out. I don't believe I want to take lacquer thinner to the face shield lens. I'm pretty sure it'll eat it, but then again, maybe not. We'll find out. I assume everything's working good. You guys can hear the sound is fine and the picture looks good. If not, just pop me a note over there and let me know. All right, 1,000 RPMs. We should be at the center axis, and we are. Let's take the top off of this. So I'll go to the end camera first, and I'm just going to take this top edge away. Get this flattened out. Get the toothpicks out of here. If you didn't notice them before, oh, they've kind of already gone. There was the toothpicks, or the not toothpicks, the skewers that I used to hold it up in the cup were sticking out. I'm really curious to see how this looks, you know, how it turns. The resin bloom. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repeat the resin bloom. But hey, you know, Corey, it being hot, you may end up with a resin bloom today if you're not careful. It's not exactly what you want to happen, unless you're doing it on purpose. Let's see what that's looking like. That cutter's acting a little dull. I may turn that. Get a little vibration. I think I'm going to turn this cutter real quick. Grab my wrench here. And my ice pick. Do just a quick turn. Clean out the... Pop you in the overhead. In case it's new to you. Always clean out that screw hole. And on these little CI5s, there's no reference point as to where you've been before. They don't have the etched letters and all in there. So I'm just going to turn that cutter a little bit. Tighten her back up. Oh, I think it spun. So my next big thing, I came back from Colorado, and I'm going to get ready for AAW Symposium. Spirocraft is a vendor at the AAW Symposium in the trade show. So I'll be getting the studio here all set up for that. Get in there on the page and work that all up. We'll be having great specials at the symposium. I think it's, I don't know, I can't remember what the cost is to be, to attend the symposium, but I don't think it's horribly expensive. Lots of first-class turners, obviously. And we pop back to the end here for you. Of course, the shop fans, the windows are already open. Okay, well that stuff actually cuts. All right, so I'm going to come to around to the side now. We'll go to the overhead. I'm going to double check that I'm tight here. Yep, feels plenty tight. Get this guy round. And you can always tell when it's nice and round and smooth, all that sound goes away. And then up here it's still got the undulations to it. but it's going away pretty quick. Like I said, I ended up with a couple of voids in this one because I was a little late getting it into the pot. A little bit of vibration going on today. I'm going to double check that. I know I put the chuck on tight, but I'm going to double check it just to be 100% certain that I didn't forget to get it good and snug when I was getting things ready. That's plenty tight. Facebook is skipping this morning. It could be I'm watching on a monitor in front of me and I don't see it. Of course I can't watch it the entire time. Sometimes if you'll just back out, George, drop out and come back in, you might get a better feed. I am actually on a different router at the moment than I normally use. Hey, this is looking cool. I'm on a different router, so I'm streaming at a little bit slower speed, but it should be way more than enough. So this is pretty. Let's take a little denatured alcohol just for yucks, because I'm curious to see how this looks. Jeff says YouTube is working good. Yeah, I'm always fighting a router battle. You buy these top-of-the-line routers, and then they won't run at full speed. And I use a mesh network in the house, and I had two Netgear mesh routers, an extender, and it didn't quite work. And I went to I think a TP link in it, and I got my gigabyte speed. That's pretty. Those little swirls are nice, and the nice little pink blooms. Again, we're going to slice this up and make some other little things out of it. And I've got some holographic glitter in here, and then these are kind of like, think of them as pink knots. That's kind of the way I'm seeing it. But anyway, so I went back because we put some other stuff in the house, and I needed to change routers again before I left. So it's one of those constant battles, trying to keep the speed up. Not sure what that black is in there, but who knows? There's no telling. All right, you see, I got a little void right there. But that's a nice swirl. So, I'm going to go to, now that I've got it kind of knocked into the round, I'm going to take a slightly larger cutter. Still a negative rake, I'll go to a mid-size cutter here. And we'll smooth this up a little bit more. Then I'll take the tailstock away and try and smooth up the front end. And then I'm going to make my first slice. I've never tried to make one of these really thin slices, so it's going to be experiment, see how it goes. Face shield back on. Okay. And this is just kind of academic, getting this smoothed up a little bit more. The other thing we could do is we could go with the radius cutter, which is actually the finish cutter. And this is actually how if you really want to get things smoothed up, this is the cutter you want to use. And you can see it's got a slight radius to it. Takes all the high spots and the tool marks out for you. So you can see that little vibration I'm getting right there. I'm not sure why I'm getting that today. Resin does tend to flex a little bit sometimes. Okay, regardless, let's take the tailstock away. And we'll clean up the face end here. Hopefully it doesn't vibrate like crazy. So I'll pop you to the end camera there. And let's clean up a face here real nice. Again, I'm going to use that radius cutter. Make sure I'm at the center axis. There we go. Now I'm just going to come across here. Now I know in the resin jewelry world that they make little molds for doing pendants, and you can pour them up individually. And I've always wondered, you know, if you could make them in bulk like this and just slice them off as you're turning. And that's kind of the impetus to try this out today. All right. See if I can't get that smooth enough, not have that vibration in it. I'm going to actually, in this case, I'm going to lead. It's a little hard to see, but so it's radius, and here's the center. But I'm going to lead with the corner. I'm going to let this corner actually, I'm going to rotate the tool. Let me put you into overhead. I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to rotate the tool so that I'm actually cutting with that leading corner, because I want to get a little bit more of a cut here. Just because it's radius doesn't mean you can't use the corners. If you're trying to smooth something, generally you don't want the corner to touch, but in this case, and I'll make another pass with the end camera showing, it really did a great job. So I got no vibration that time. Okay. I got a super clean cut across here. Alright. And again, I'm using the very corner of the cutter. That corner is going to be nice and fresh and sharp too, because you don't normally use it. So I come across very lightly. That's one of the biggest things that in turning, if you ask me, is we've got all these tools, and the thing is learning not so much how to use them, but what you can do with them, what they'll do. And look at that little spiral. That's kind of cool. Not that I wanted a spiral, but if I wanted a spiral, I couldn't have created one. Bob says, do you keep the tool at center with a negative rate cutter? Yes, so the cutting edge, Bob, is at the center axis, even with the negative rakes. So that's got a nice little look to it, going through there. Now the question is, and I'm not going to sand this because this is kind of experimental. The question is, how thin a slice can I slice off of this, right guys? All right. I don't know. I know what I'm going to try. And we're going to see what happens here. So again, I'm going to use the Carter & Son. It looks like it went out of focus on me, that silly thing. It's supposed to be focused on manual, and it's supposed to be focused up here. But I see a little fuzzy on Facebook. We're going to use the Carter & Son 16th inch parting tool. Very narrow. Love this tool. And I'm going to raise this up to where the tip is cutting right at center as well. I may move that around, depending on what it does, how it responds. Alright, that's pretty close. Alright, let's see what happens. And now this tool also, if I go to the overhead, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. If you can see the tapers, the steps. So if I come along with my finger, that's the first flare right there. It starts to flare up, and then it flares again. And that's what allows this tool. It's only a 1/16 of an inch out here, but it's very stiff. There's literally, I won't say there's no flex to it, but there's literally no flex. Okay? So the question I have for myself is how thin can we make this? Now that's probably about 1/8 of an inch, give or take, somewhere right in there. Okay. Now if I was making this, knowing that it was perfect and great, I would sand this and polish this, and I would sand and polish this edge as well, just so because I have a third hand here on the lathe to do it with. But right now we're just experimenting. So the one thing that I do want to do is I'm going to cut a relief cut. I'm going to give up some material. And have a little relief cut so that I don't overheat my tool. And also lets me see down inside a little bit better. Sorry for the cough there. So I'm working back and forth. I work the relief cut, and then I work on the face. And you can see I got the tool angled a little bit. And I'll bring it back around. And to show you what is going on in the end, so you can see the tool go in. Back on the relief cut. And I may blow one or two of these up, we'll find out. Back to my piece. And I'm using the side of my tool as my reference now, and I'm gonna come straight across. So I'm getting real close, and I was turning about 1,000 RPMs. But I want to keep the cut as clean as I can, so I'm going to let it stay at that speed. And it just pops right off of there. Okay. So, where are we at? We're on the end. There's our slice. Nice and clean. The back is pretty clean. Could use it'll take a little bit of work. We'll pop into the overhead here for you. So there's our slice, about 1/8 of an inch. Front side looks pretty good. The back, I said, this will need a little sanding, but that can be done on a disc sander. If you have a stationary disc sander, you can clean that right up. Now, I know you won't be able to see, but I'm going to hold this up to the light. And light definitely goes right through there. This is where I'm supposed to have my flashlight to shine light through here for you, and so I'm going to use my cell phone. And so Bridget, if you're watching, you're right. I should have a flashlight out here for this as I come up with these ideas to shine light through here. But I think you'll be able to see how translucent that is. So if these were like a sun catcher, that's what we were talking about, using this for a sun catcher concept. The light goes through that pretty nicely. And then we have the pattern of the resin bloom in pink and brown there. If I hold it up a little bit higher, it lights up the whole thing. So that's kind of cool in its own way. First attempt at that's neat. And you could go thinner. It'll take some practice to go thinner. But I kind of like the way that's looking. All right. So we'll put that back down, turn off the phone light. Jeff says he's got a Sorby parting tool. Like the Carter, but I think Carter would be better. Sometimes if you get it below center, it pulls the tool in with the wedges. Is it, Jeff, is it the little stubby? The little short stubby Sorby? That's a good tool too, and that would work as well, I think. And I freshly sharpened this one up just before I started this morning. So let's just put a little shine on this. A little quick alcohol on there. So that's pretty cool. All right, so that's the first slice. I'm gonna make another slice, and see if we can repeat. So as you can see here, from my relief cuts, I have a little bit of extra flake in there. We'll clean all that up. And now we're starting to see more of the resin bloom because we're getting deeper down in the piece. So we'll come back around here to the end. We'll use our radius cutter. We'll set it at the center. It looks like it's already pretty much there. And we'll clean this up and we'll make another slice. So we're on the end camera, good to go. Just kind of get it flat. Get that cleaned up. You hear a little vibration in there. We'll take care of that with the corner. Now I've got a little bit of void right there, which is okay because we're trying to have light pass through these just a little bit. So let's see if we can smooth this up real nice. Couple little voids in there. So you can also take your tool, if you wanted to. Let's see, how's that looking? You can't quite see it in the overhead. And I can see that I'm dished a little bit. So that would give me a false reading. So this one I'm gonna put a little bit of a dome shape to this. So I'm gonna come from the inside out, and I'm gonna kind of make this convex just slightly. Check it with my tool. So now it's just, you can see the tool rocks just a little teeny bit. So that's slightly convex. Okay. Let's see how pretty that is with a little bit of alcohol on it. Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. So the pink, if you're not familiar with what I did, I had stabilizing resin that got mixed with water outside and then got hot and turned into these, what I'm calling resin blooms. It built its own entity from the stabilizing resin. So then I cured them in the oven at the 200 degrees. Now they're fragile, but it's just resin, and I had some pink dye in there, so I ended up with it pink. And then I went ahead and cast them in the epoxy resin, and the turn's great. It's working out pretty well. I'm quite pleased, actually. Okay, so we're going to leave the holes in it. That's smooth. It's slightly convex. Let's make another pass here with our parting tool. And there's no telling what kind of ideas can come out of this. That's what this is all about, is just kind of coming up with new ideas. Things that may or may not work. that you have fun with. Ways to use your resin and make fun projects. Little decorative things if you sell at craft shows are always a big hit. I swear that camera is on manual focus, but it changed its mind. My tip is just about center again. I'm going to see if I can make one thinner, just for yucks. Not a whole lot. It's got to still have resin. Resin that doesn't have any grain to it, doesn't have any structure. So you have to be careful. You can only go so thin with it, I think. And this piece is just over a 1/16. Make my relief cut back here. Come back up to my front piece. Now this one is pretty thin, like I said. Now if you remember, I made it convex on the front side, so I have a little bit of latitude. But I want to keep my tool pretty straight, and I need to be careful. One thing I need to be careful of, when I have my tool in place here, I can't use a right angle as a reference because this tapers. So if I use that as a reference, I'll cut through the face of my piece. So, you know, I need to, like, if I say line up my tool rest, I use my tool rest and I lined it up visually with the edge of the ways over here on the bed. That might be a good reference point without doing anything crazy. That's one of the things I love about casting up the resin in small batches for experimental things is you don't, you know, if it goes south, you don't really lose a lot. Now if you wanted to, you could do this, and let's do this just because. We could go ahead and take a good bit of this away. That was the tool rest hitting the chuck. Don't do that. We could take a good bit of this away so we could see our back side a little bit better. I think I have to tighten up the lock nut underneath. So by doing that, it allows you to look inside here on the back side. I'm in the overhead, yeah. So it would allow you to look back inside here and see how smooth your cut was. And if you took, you know, a thumb's worth, if you took 3/4 of an inch off, you could really see. And you could actually sand that if you wanted to. You could sand it in place while it's still spinning before you turn off. Part it all the way off. So there are some ways that you could finish out your medallion while it's still on the lathe, because I can take this down pretty small. Let's take another pass in here. I don't need a lot of resin for my next little project, so just playing with ideas. So let's see, if I take a micro, okay, so that just fits. Now, I know you can't see as I don't have a camera pointing at this angle here coming back in. But I'm almost, you can see there's a little flex there. I'm going to use my parting tool again, take some more of this material out of here. It's just easier and safer. And I'm not taking this all the way down the same, I'm leaving a little extra strength here, or trying to. Okay, now here's where what we could try is with our radius tool on the back side here. See how we're cleaning that up? So that's taking away a lot of the extra work. Now theoretically this is going to be smoother than the first one I cut on the back side. Using this radius curve in the square style cutter, so if you'll think about it, you can make yourself ways to access a piece. Get that going the right way, Brad. Now I'm going to take some more of this away so I can get closer in. You can access the back side of a piece and save yourself a whole lot of sanding. So the stem inside here, if you will, is about a pencil. About the size of a pencil. Okay. And you can do a lot with the tip of these little tools, just working them back and forth. Let you get in there and do that stuff. So again, I'll come back in here now, and I can reach even further down inside here and clean up that last section. So this is super transparent. Now I'm getting some flex. You can see the flex here in the piece. So I'm starting to get some vibration due to just having it all turned away. So one thing I can do, I can try and stabilize that a little bit. I'll put my thumb on the outside. And trying to minimize that vibration. Okay, still have a little ring of vibration there, and that's life. So I'm going to go ahead and part through here now. And just go ahead and finish cutting this off. And it'll go tossing across the room, or maybe just fall down. And I can actually see in there pretty well. I can actually rotate this parting tool and get just the tip, and I can clean it up a little bit more, or try to as I go. Take it down to its last, and there it goes right there, boom. Drops off nice and gentle like. And all I gotta do is find it. Okay, cool. So that one is fairly thin. Let's say, you know, just over a 1/16, not much. It's just about a 1/16 of an inch. It's just about the same size as our parting tool now. Not too bad on the back side. A little sanding that would have to be done there. You see I've got some voids there. But generally speaking, that worked out pretty well. If we take our fancy flashlight, obviously light's going to go right through this thing in a big way. So if that was hanging in direct sunlight somewhere, you would have wonderful, some wonderful patterns. And you could do up a whole bunch of these, And you could, you could drill through the face and hang with the wires. You could put the little eyelets in there. Lots of different things, and where the holes are, the natural holes, the bubbles, the voids, well, that just makes a whole nother light. But I love the look of the pink, and then the kind of the dark. It's where the stuff burnt, the resin bloom burnt. So a nice pattern. If we turn it over, it's the same kind of thing. All right. So I'm really pleased with that. That's kind of cool. And if they were to be polished up, like say, here's how I always show you my quick and dirty. I'll just spray a little lacquer on here. And so that's what it would look like polished. And I'll go to the end camera and I'll turn it at an angle for you. And bring it over here. So smoothed up, polished out. Really cool. And 1/16 of an inch thick or so. So I'm really pleased with that. That's cool. And when, like I say, if you put it up to the light, well, the light shines right through it. Like if I go like so, and I hold it up to the light like this, that's really neat. I'll take it over here to the front camera, see if I can get you another shot. There, I'll have to watch Facebook for a second for this to change and see if you can see that real well. Because this camera that I'm in front of right now is on autofocus. Obviously there's some tool marks, a little bit of sanding still to be done. Trying to keep my fingers out of the way there. But pretty cool. And there's how thick it is. Just a thin little wafer. Trying to do the weatherman thing here. And then the backside. Okay? So I'm quite pleased with that. The way that worked out. That's kind of cool. So those little discs, again, you put a whole rack of these together. All from one little cup's worth of resin as a good experiment. Looks kind of neat. Looks kind of neat. I'm pleased. I'm happy. Cool beans. All right, how we doing on time? 11:50, so 12 o'clock. Got about an hour left, give or take. So now I'll go ahead and take this piece, and I like to make these little water fountains, or I call them water fountains, water droplets. And so there'll be, if you haven't seen it before, this center section here, there'll be a little bead or a little ball, like a droplet of water that's splashing back up, and it'll have a little fountain cup to it down through here. I made them out on the road when doing the woodworking shows as part of the resin turning demonstration, and they're just fun little things to play with. Like I said, we've already got the start of our bead right here, our water droplet. All right, and then I'm just going to play with this, and we're going to see what this looks like inside. So I think I'll take a quick sip of soda here, and we'll get to work. If anybody's got any questions, fire away as I change gears here just a little bit. Same tools, same resin, and all that, obviously. I'm just going to be making a different piece. And if you've just joined in again, what's inside of this is stabilizing resin, the Best Value Vac stabilizing resin, the brand that comes out of the UK that they carry. And I had it outside. It was old resin, had been around for about 1.5 years. And it got mixed with the rainwater, and then it got really hot while I was out of town, and it just created these almost like a foam, so I call them resin blooms. And then I put it in the oven and cured it, just like any other stabilizing resin. And then I cast it into the Chromacraft epoxy resin that Spiracraft carries, and this is what we've got. So this is what we're working with today, in case you just happen to come along and wondering what in the world's Bradley up to. He's having fun. That's what he's up to. Okay, let's see. There's our start of our bead. Let's go to the end camera. Haven't made one of these in a while. Let me think about this. Tool of choice. Everything's centered. I'm on the end. So this is gonna be our water droplet right here. That's already got a start to it. Now we're gonna take some of this away. So I'll come to hollow this out and make a dish shape in here. Let me try the number 1 hollower. I might go back to that. Small, lightweight. Move some material here. This is just kind of bulk removal right now. Now I'm going to leave some strength behind this and I'll work my way down. Now there you can see the resin bloom showing up. We are getting this vibration today it's annoying, but I have everything snugged up every way that can be. Lorianne, I was just thinking about you guys. I saw your pictures. You're at the water. Having a good time. It's great to see you. Hope you're having a wonderful holiday. Everybody needs a break. Thanks for dropping in. I really appreciate it. So I'm leaving this thick because I want to work on it, and it's going to get really thin back here eventually. But I want to leave some strength there as I go along. I always have a fun time making these little guys. Hopefully there's not too much buffering going on in the feed today. So you can see we've got some voids down in here. We've got our bloom. The bloom is turning well. It cuts clean. The stabilizing resin bloom. So this section is the stem, and this is the water droplet. That'll get rounded over. This stem will get really small. So I'm going to just kind of lay this out a little bit. Work on my proportions a touch. So I'm going to come back in here now and take away some below the cup of the fountain, if you will. Not a lot. I just want to get a feel for what I got going on, size and shape wise. I don't want to take away so much as to lose the strength while I work on this. So I'm just kind of rocking this number 1 hollower back and forth. Got the CI5 negative rate cutter on it. So now we've got some other colors in here. It's kind of cool. There's a green. I can't remember what else I threw in this thing. That's kind of neat. You cast resin at the campsite and brought the pressure pot with you. You guys are hardcore. You guys are hardcore. My hat's off to you. That sounds like work to me, not vacation. Okay, so you can see how I'm just kind of roughing out the shape here. This is looking cool. Let's put a little alcohol on that and see what that looks like. Flip my mask up here for a second, get a fresh paper towel. Clean off some of that mess. Gosh, I can't remember what all I put down in here, but I like it. So that's got some pretty interesting stuff going on in there. And the more you cross-section a piece, hopefully my visor is not getting in the way of that. The more you cross-section things like this, the more shows up, because you're cutting across the face of this. You know, it's fairly small in diameter. And if I pop into the end camera and see what that's kind of looking like. So that's going to be our top of our fountain. This is our water drop. Okay. Speaking of drop, I dropped my alcohol to make this shiny a little bit. Put it over here. All right, so there's my general premise. There's my water drop. And look and see what I'm looking at, what you're seeing. There's my water drop. Here's my initial cup. This will be the stem. This will be really thin. This will be a bowl. This is kind of just a decorative arc under here, and then it'll flare back out to a base. And so probably, just for proportion figuring, I'll probably make the bottom, I like to keep these small, I'll probably make the bottom somewhere right around here. Okay, so theoretically, I still have a shallow bottle stopper right here if one wanted, or something else, or some more discs. We could get a couple more of our discs off of here if you haven't been in yet. So there's a couple more of these guys could be cut off of this easily. So that's a lot of use out of one little batch of soda cup worth of resin. Okay, so let's see. Think I will work on this shape a little bit. Start to shape the outside of the fountain. Again, not to its final diameter here. We're going to leave it thick for strength. Okay, so that's great. I'm getting lots of things showing up here. I'm super happy. There's a little void, a little pocket right there. Hey, that's life. Sometimes you get those. Okay, so I like that. I think maybe one or two more passes there just to clean this up as I think about it. Okay, now let's go to the end camera, and we'll kind of roll this guy over a little bit. Soften that edge right there. Now I followed this tool rest before I started today, but I still get it's a little grabby, and as your work gets smaller, the amount of whenever anything gives you a little resistance, the impact is much larger because it's all relative to the smallness of the size. If you're turning a 16-inch bowl and you get a little 64th, 128th inch divot or something or whatnot, it's not you don't even notice it. But when you get down really small like this, all of a sudden it does make a big difference. So what I've done is I've rolled over. I just kind of rolled this edge back in a little bit, and there's still tool marks in here and whatnot, but I kind of rolled that edge back over a little bit, if you can see against what used to be black of that. All right, now the best way I think for you to watch me make the little water droplet here, I'll go back and forth, but you'll be able to see as I start to cut this down from the overhead, and if I move the headstock, it'll change the focus on the camera, so I don't really want to do that. So let me start here with the CI5, and I think I'm actually going to switch over because this is fairly delicate work. I'm going to grab a little micro tool, and hopefully it is sharp. We'll find out in a second. So what I'll do is I'll start to take away what's going to be the stem, and this much you should be able to be seeing in the. I'm going to move that over here a little bit more for you. Start to take away what will be the stem. Okay, so that's even. So now I'll start to roll this over, and I'll go to the front camera for you, or the end camera, excuse me. And we start to roll this into a droplet. Now obviously this is just all free-form kind of stuff, which is actually my favorite thing to do. And you might be able to see this better going on in the overhead. Let me pop you back into the overhead. Now you need to be careful if the tool, in this instance, I'm going to go back to the front here or overhead for a second. If you can see, I don't know if you can see the little teeny white, the very, very center right there. Okay, and if I take my tool and I put it up against there, you can see how I can still see that. That means my tool rest is that much too low, because if this tool goes under center, it's going to catch and snap that thing right off. So if anything, you might want to favor being slightly above center. But then if you do that, you run the risk of trying to roll your tool back down. So try and get it to where it is really centered. There's a video I've got out from the shows, and you see this whole piece flex one time, and it didn't break then when I was making it. Now somebody dropped it playing with it shortly thereafter and broke it. I'm going to pop you back over to the overhead here. And the more I take away on the back side, the more fragile this becomes. Let me know if, because I can't look up and down at the same time. I don't think my head's getting in the shot. So we're going to make this guy really small, stem behind it. And when I start to disappear there, it looks like I better go back to the end camera as I work back in here. This is great for your tool control. Even if you end up breaking it after the fact as you go, it's a great way to practice your tool control. I'm going to flip this up for a minute. Get myself some fresh air. So, I don't know if you saw there, the tool went down. It just went and grabbed underneath. So, I wasn't paying enough attention. And as this shaft gets smaller, the stem gets smaller, that happens. Okay, I'll flip you back to the overhead where you can see what I'm talking about here. You do want to keep any excess ribbons out of the way. You need to be able to see what you're doing the whole time. Now, if I've got a void in this at all, if there's a void here, this guy will break easily, so I have to be really careful. That white, or that light pink, I think is where, just from when the tool grabbed. Now I want to try and work on my droplet a little bit more here. I'm in quest of the perfect water droplet shape, not that I've studied them. So I have to be very careful. I'm going to raise that tool rest up just ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. If I go below center, I really run the risk of breaking that. I'm going to stop and check for any tool marks up in here. That gives you an idea of the size of the piece, or how small that is. That's my finger, obviously. Of course, it's flesh tone, so kind of shows up as such. So that's got a little flex to it, not too bad. And that's in the overhead. And pop you back to the end camera as I go down in here. But no, it's really fun to push your limits for nice thin turnings like this. Again, keep the strands off of it. Time to do a little work over here before we get too far along. I'll actually come back in here with a bigger cutter and just take a little bit more. I want to thin up, make this wall thinner here on the cup. So the green, I don't know what the green is down in there. So with this larger tool, I'm actually back up above center. So I'm going to drop that back down for a minute. I went too low. It's a fine line here. There we go. am I doing on time? It is 12:12. Okay, I'm all good. So I'm just working on a nice uniform wall thickness here for this upper cup. Alright. If we're curious to see what it looks like, and I am, quick shot of alcohol on here, just denatured alcohol. There we go. So we've got our little pink stub right there in the top, and then we've got green and pink and brown down in the cup. So what I want to do is get this wall thickness here thin enough to be translucent, where light can pass through it pretty easily. Okay. And I'm still going to come back up here and take a little bit more out of this section right in here. I'll make this really, really thin. Right up until I'm scared to death that I'm going to break it, and then hopefully I don't. So we'll be back there in a little bit. Okay, bigger tool still. Taking a little more material out. Keep that off of there. The last thing you want to do is hit that now. It'll even start, it looks like it might even be starting, they'll start to warp from the heat sometimes. So as I start to get down in the bottom of this cup, where the radius of this cutter is starting to kind of fill the entire void and starting to touch more and more on the sides, I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to the smaller guy for even down in here now. So I'm going to reset that, or check that. That's right at center, so I was a little perfect. All right. And I'm going to move everything in closer here. That wall thickness with my fingers, plenty of material there. And this is one of those cases where I'm watching the tool cut on the opposite side. As the tool goes down, I can see the cut line on the opposite side. Okay, so you can see my finger through there pretty easily now. Now let's go ahead and work our way. We're going to take some more of this, a little bit more of this out, and then we'll take care of this section right in here. All right, ever so carefully. And I'm trying to sneak that tool rest in even closer, because if it gets any leverage at all, it will snap that right off. And in the overhead you can't quite see, so I think we'll stay here in the end camera. So this is great practice for your tool control. Fantastic practice, as a matter of fact. And I'm going to raise that tool rest up a fuzz more. I mean, just a little teeny bit. That's better. And what I'm trying to do is get the tool marks out of there without having to sand. Now when it gets real thin like that, go ahead and stop it and take your chips away, because if the chips, the resin ribbons, were to catch on it or lock down, it will snap that thing right off. Okay. So now we just want to kind of blend all this together in here. Like I said, I have a ball making these. They're really fun for me, and they're really rewarding. So I'm just kind of smoothing all this out together. I've got a little lip right there, a little hump. So we'll get rid of that hump. Right in through here. Yeah, it makes you a little nervous when you do these, but it's so rewarding when you get one and it comes out well. And again, you're working with a small amount of resin, so if you have an error, if you break it or whatever, you haven't lost, $50 worth of resin. Okay. Okay. I think, all in all, I'm going to stop right there. Now, I haven't sanded this, haven't polished it or any of that stuff. Take my mask off for fresh air real quick. I'm going to hit it with a shot of lacquer on the inside just so you can see what it will eventually look like. How it'll sheen, how it'll shine up. That's pretty cool. So I'm quite pleased with that. It's neat. Put you on the overhead here. You can see the stem. Get your black reference point there. Again, if I move the headstock back, it'll mess up the focus even more. You can go smaller than that if you wanted to. It's risky, but you can. And again, you can see my finger back here shining through the piece, so the light will pass through that pretty nicely. So the whole ball, what I'm really happy about is the whole ball right here is nothing but the pink resin bloom. And my dad says, stop right there. Come on, Dad. You ever seen me stop when it was enough? Yeah, I'm going to stop right there on that. Okay. So we'll just let that resin spinner or that lacquer spin off of there for a second. And then we'll go and work on the rest of this thing and we'll wrap up. All right, this has been a great Monday Methods to get back. They've been gone out of here a couple of weeks. I'm having fun, doing something I enjoy, making a fun little piece, making these little medallions. Again, I think this is really cool. Pop over here to the overhead. These guys. Okay, let's go to work here. Take some more of this mass out of here. I'm actually going to turn this base a little bit smaller. than the top. So I'm going to take a radius cutter because they don't have a square negative rake. And I'm just going to take some of this material away. Now that cutter's nice and sharp. These others are getting a little dull on me. Actually kind of makes a nice radius right there. And filled the groove up with stuff. Okay, so that's a little bit smaller. That's what I like. I like it to be a little bit smaller there than I like the base to be a little bit smaller than the top. And another thing that we can do, we can take a detail and relieve this angle here. So I'm just kind of working out some of this is a negative rake CI7. And I'm just going to kind of chamfer that bottom edge back in a little bit. But you can actually use this to clean up that, help define that base too, if you want to. This little tool is great. It's got a super sharp fine point on it. All you want to make sure is you don't load both sides of this cutter where my fingers are. Don't load both sides real heavy at the same time or it'll bind and vibrate. There's a void down in there, so we'll have a void down in our base. Well, hey, that's life. Okay. So, back to my bigger round cutter. Got tools falling all over the place around here. Stop and check my wall thickness here. I'm fine. Okay, that's all good. And we can bring this right on down to whatever size waist we like the profile of and the arc. Doesn't have to be super small. It can be if you want it to be. Now it's interesting, there are different densities going on in here. I swear I don't remember what the green is at all. But hey, I've got some voids here which are making the tool bounce around a little bit. And that's again because I didn't get it in the pressure pot in time. And the other part of that, what's making that happen, the reason I have so many voids, and I knew this was potential, look at all the surface area of this piece. So there's a ton of air and air pockets that go into this. When this goes into the resin, it's holding air in all these places. And so lesson learned there is I waited till the last minute to throw it in the pot, and I should have gotten it in the pressure pot a little bit sooner, because all this surface area, I mean, this looks like a piece of coral. That's all holding air. All that is going to hold extra air, and that's more air that the pressure pot has to get rid of. Okay, so we've got a little lip there that we'll clean up. I can tell I've been working this tool hard because even the shaft is hot. So I've been moving some material pretty quick. Get you that better look there. That base felt a little clunky. Let's put a little more cove in that right there. Like so. Okay. Take that harsh edge off of that. And now I'm going to switch over to the smaller CI5 as my radius gets tighter down in here. Okay. Just so I don't run the risk of touching on both sides. I'm trying to keep this black where you can see and I can see. I'm using it. The black of the banjo is what's showing me my profile here. Okay. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. I'm only turning 1,000. It's a little bouncy with that hole in it. So I took it up to about 1400. You can hear that little hole there as we go by. The hole's probably getting bigger. Yeah, that hole's pretty good size now. So, to clean this up, it's so hard to get it really smooth with the round cutters. Have I found a use for the resin shavings? Not really. You can cast them again. I've never really tried it, Jim. I always say I'm going to, and I never get around to it. So I'm taking the radius cutter now, and I can come in at this angle, or I can actually come in this way as well and clean this up. I just don't want that corner to touch there, so I can come either direction and take out these tool marks. And you can see how it's changed, and it's like sanding with the cutter. Got one line right there that might have been a corner touch. Okay. Now you can't get down inside here with this radius. Well, you could if you made the radius, I'm sorry for my head if it got in there, if you made the radius of that match, but you'd have two lines right there. So I'm also going to come here now and using the side of the cutter, or I can come at this angle. Either way, it's hard to get in there with this tool rest. This is a big tool rest. I should have a smaller one in place here for this smaller work. Oop, don't do that. You can see it's tough because of the angle of the tool to the tool rest. It's easier for the tool to rock if you're not careful. That's why if I do this, I have a little bit better angle on the tool. The tool rest. It's much more of a right angle, and I'm just using the side of the cutter. That's the nice thing about having a cutter that has all those sides. Now, just for fun, because I just love to try things, I'm going to take a little spindle gouge. I haven't sharpened this. I may wreck this all to pieces. I'm going to take a little detailed spindle gouge just for fun. I just want to do this for my own self. Without even sharpening it, just grabbing it off the rack. And it's not very sharp. But sometimes you can draw with them and clean things up pretty nice. Too much vibration there. Just thought I'd give it a go. Looking to see if I got another one handy. It's my little bottom feeder. I just like to try different things. Just in case you don't have carbide tools, can you do this with your conventional tools? And you can. Have to have them super sharp. And those aren't super sharp, so if I was going to do that for real, though I got nice, clean, fine shavings, if I was going to use that for real as my finish, I would indeed go make that sharp, and you can actually do it. But these carbide tools are actually just easier. And I'm halfway over the tool rest, half of the length of this tool over the tool rest. So I'm kind of pushing my luck a little bit. And right there's where that hole is, which makes things bounce around. Okay, now the question is, do I want to make the stem any smaller? I don't really want to make it any smaller, but I want to change the profile. It's got a hump. It's got a hump right in here. I don't know if you can see that the way that's looking. Hey, Roy! How you doing, boy? You done with chemo and radiation, getting back to normal? Great to hear that, Roy. Everybody, Roy and I met through the Woodworking Show's virtual symposium. Roy's a great guy. He's been doing the cancer chemo thing and says he's coming back and feeling better, getting back to normal. I'm so happy to hear that, Roy. I really am. Great to hear. Good news. Love good news on a holiday. Love good news anytime, especially when it comes to people's health. I'm going to go a little bit smaller down in here. And take away this hump. So just blending that profile down. And I'm looking again against a black background between the cabinet and the banjo. So it's pretty easy to see the profile there. Couple of tool marks right up in there that I kind of wanted to get rid of. Now I'm going to just spray this with lacquer like I usually do, but some sanding would help a ton. A little bit more here, just because I can't help myself. I just keep blending that curve in with the two curves that are coming together. And hopefully there's not a void there. I want to check. If I had a big pocket, if I had a void starting to show up there, I would stop because I know that it would break. Okay? But I don't. Okay, I think I'm just about happy there. I think we'll leave that alone, just like that. Pop off my mask for a second. So I see Art Miller's popped up on the screen there. You guys can't see him. Came up on the private messenger on my Facebook view. Good to see you, Art. He says, "I'm sorry I missed you today. Welcome home." Well, it's okay, Art. I'll be here again. So I want to throw a little lacquer on this just for yucks. Now I'm going to leave it in. I'm going to leave this here so that I can sand it in time. But I like the way that looked. I might actually part this off and just leave it like this, leave it around the house. Bridget loves these things. If I put enough lacquer on it, I don't really have to sand it. So I'm stoked with this. I'll pop you in here. Again, it really, and I can sand it in the chuck, just holding the very end if I need to. So this little guy came out really cool. My resin blooms look really neat. I'm happy with that. The green in here, I can't remember what in the world I put down in that, to be quite honest. But that's pretty cool. All right, so here's the deal. I'm gonna spin the excess lacquer off of that. I'm gonna go ahead and part this off. I'm going to part this off. I don't know when I'll get around to sanding it, and I'd rather have it around the house to kind of look at. Great little water droplet fountain, as I call them. Hey, there's an arrow out there on the screen, but you guys can't see that, I don't think. No, you can't see that. Okay. I'm going to let that dry off just for a second, and then I'll go ahead and part this off. Try not to break the water drop as I part it off. I'm doing on time 12:39, is that right? Yeah, so we're plenty of time. We're going to run out to the coast today. When we get done here, have a little fun, getting my feet back on the ground. Okay, let's park this guy off. I'll take you to the overhead one more time. Put my face mask back on. I really am pleased with how the resin bloom turned. I just hope that I can figure out a way to repeat making the resin blooms. It was a total fluke accident. I did not make them on purpose with intent or intention. They'd made themselves by accident, and it turned out to be really cool. Now I'll slow this way down in a minute. I'll make this undercut so it'll sit nicely. Again, this is the Carter & Sons 16th inch parting tool. This is my favorite parting tool. It's very easy to control, doesn't flex. I'm trying to make as clean a cut underneath here as I can. Okay, so I'm down to a little less than a pencil, so I'm going to go ahead and slow this way down because I don't want to break that water droplet when it comes off or when it separates. And I've got it, way undercut. There we go. Safe and sound. Off it comes. Hit right there for a second. Now I can move this over. If I can. Hang on just a sec. I got that really tight. Now. Here we go. Now we got a little somewhere we can sit that. So you can see the top. You can see the tool marks. And like I say, obviously it needs to be sanded. But what I can do, and if you're wondering, well, how in the world are you going to sand that thing? I'll show you. We still have a little bit of this left. Do something with that. But you could just very gently, and these jaws might be a little too big. Yeah, but you would hold it just like so. With a set of smaller jaws. Or even, you don't have any bull jaws that small. But the next size set down of jaws, you could hold on to that guy right there. And gently sand all this. And that would be perfect. So in the end, I'm going to give you an end view. There's what the piece looks like. Lots of fun. Really cool. Again, great for your tool control. Like the way it came out. They're just kind of cool, fun little things to do. Hold it up here for you, and the overhead this way. Again, you can see, like I say, there's tool marks down in there. Sand those out. Great colors with the pearlescent powders. That was the gold pearlescent powder. And then, obviously, the pink is, once again, these resin blooms that just happened out in my stuff. Couple coats of lacquer, lay this around the house. It'll be good fun. I'm happy. I'm pleased with that. It's a little guy. I made a bunch of them over time. Again, I used to make them out at the woodworking shows. Good deal. So it is about time to wrap up. It's 1:45. Any questions real quick? If anybody's got any questions, fire away. What grit would I use to sand it? Jim, because some of these tool marks are a little big, I probably would start maybe even in these bottom ones down in here, maybe 180, just real quick, and then go to 220 and work my way up through that. Because I'm going to do a lacquer finish on it, once I got rid of the tool marks and any of that stuff, I wouldn't go past 220. Because the lacquer is going to be my finish, and I'll cut the lacquer back with 220. So once I've got any of the undulations whatsoever out of it, 220 is perfectly fine for lacquer for a finish, because the lacquer is what's going to build up and fill in the highs and the lows, and you cut your lacquer back a little bit. Now, if you were going to just do a polish with the grit polishes, then you got to go with, you're going to have to take it further. Your 400, 600, 800, 1500, and then polish and all that stuff. So George says, what's happening with the experimental blooms? Well, I haven't had any success in reproducing it yet. I left a batch of resin out here and I think that's the bucket. I kind of forgot about it. But I think that's the bucket with the water, but it looks like the water has evaporated possibly, and it's just the resin. So I'm not sure. My test bucket, there's nothing there. Nothing has happened. Nothing has grown. So I'll have to continue on my experiment on how to reproduce. And it probably, in my luck, it's going to be one of those things where it was a fluke of nature, and it grew the blooms that one time. If it doesn't work, in a controlled way, I'm going to take another bucket of old resin, stick it out there underneath the eave of the roof, and leave it sit out there all summer and wait for the next bloom to happen. Maybe it was just meant to be a one-time. I hope I can do it again. I hope I can find a way to recreate it, because they're pretty cool. I got a whole little tray of them here. And it would be fun because they make, I know that picture's not too good to overhead. That's a little bit better. They make for interesting profiles and stuff like that. So I'd love to be able to repeat it. Don't know if I can. If I can't repeat it, hey, it was good while it lasted. If I can, well, there'll be lots more things to do. It gives me ideas, even if I can't repeat it with that, some other things that maybe we can do. The wheels are always turning. Like I said, I've got a lot of traveling this summer, a lot of windshield time coming up. I just did 4 days coming back from Colorado, and I'm driving back out there in a few weeks, and then back, and then I'm driving to Waco, Texas, and back. So I've got lots of windshield time in the next 2 months to come up with fresh ideas, things to play with. So who knows what'll come up. Anyway, I think we'll wrap this up. This was great being back. I know I'm here next week again, I say, and I'm not sure if I'll get the third one in or not. I'd have to look at the calendar. But anytime I can do, and I was going to do Monday Methods from Colorado, but it turns out that I got stuff on me. I'm a mess. There was just not enough bandwidth to even barely check email or anything else. So I had to scrap all that. But we will be here as often as we can throughout the summer, and when the fall comes, well, I'm right here all the time. Not traveling too much in the fall that I can think of. So look forward to the AAW Symposium coming up on the 17th and 18th. I'll be here in the virtual booth for that. I think it's only about $70 or $80 to attend the AAW Virtual Symposium. Great world-class demonstrators, great vendors such as Spiracraft come in. We'll have good sales on lots of stuff. We will be featuring like the Chromacraft products very heavily. Nick Agar is doing demonstrations at AAW, and they're just down the road from us. So we'll be featuring that heavily with all the resins and the colorants and all the things that Nick's signature line has. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you all next Monday. Keep tuned, and I'll be back. And everybody have a great holiday. Stay safe. And we're going to run down to the coast for a few hours, and I'll see y'all soon. Take care, and I'll leave you with an overhead picture. No, I'm going to leave you with the side picture. No, overhead looks better. I'm going to leave you with the overhead picture of that little piece. And everybody, have a great weekend or holiday, and take care. All right. Jim says $45 to join the symposium virtually. That's cool. All right, everybody. Thank you, and have a great week.